Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Friday. It's the end of another week. England in action tonight at the World Cup, which we know what that means. Mykhailo Saka in action tonight in the World Cup. So looking forward to that. We'll do a little bit of a World Cup roundup coming up in this video. Lots of Arsenal players in action yesterday. So have a little look back at that. But some news that came out last night, a confirmation of Arsenal's final friendly, the big Emirates Stadium friendly on Saturday, December the 17th. Arsenal are going to be playing Juventus. Initially, it was going to be a Spanish club. Nothing could quite be worked out. And with the conversations that were going on with a couple of them, I think Barcelona were one of them. Arsenal were hoping potentially to have Barcelona at the Emirates on that Saturday. It didn't happen. And in the end, they've agreed a deal with Juventus to come over for that game. 6 p.m. kickoff on the Saturday. That will follow on from the games in the Dubai Super Cup. I mean, it should be a great occasion at the Emirates, even though it's a friendly. Obviously, Juventus coming over will be good. Hopefully, be a packed out Emirates, I imagine, just before Christmas. So that should be good. I'm not going to be there for that, annoyingly, because that's just the start of my holiday. I'm off for a few days, sort of building up to Christmas. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be at that one, but plenty of you will be, I'm sure, and it'll be one to look forward to. See if any of the World Cup boys are back by then and involved. If not, we know the likes of Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Magalhaes and those sort of players will be involved in it. And I imagine a few of the World Cup boys who would have been knocked out by then would have sort of linked up with the squad back in Dubai and should be involved in that one. So that's a good friendly to look forward to, and that kind of completes Arsenal's you want to say pre-season campaign. It's obviously not pre-season, but you know what I mean. They're having a mini pre-season because of the break for the World Cup. So the 3 matches they're going to be playing against Milan, Lyon, Juventus, 3 top quality opponents. Mikel Arteta will hope that the sort of carefully laid out plan that they've put in place to ensure that the team is ready to hit the ground running when the Premier League returns on Boxing Day, that those games kind of will be enough to dust off the cobwebs, so to speak, for Arsenal. World Cup yesterday, interesting day. Finally got to see Brazil. Had to wait pretty much till the very last game of the it was the very last game, I think, wasn't it, of the opening round of fixtures for the group stages. Brazil take it on Serbia. Excuse me, 2-0 win for Brazil. Richarlison from that lot down the road getting 2 goals. What a goal that second goal was by Richarlison. Absolutely brilliant. That's what the World Cup, certainly what Brazil's all about, scoring goals like that. We did get to see Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli come on kind of for Jesus got about the last 20, Martinelli got the last few minutes, but great for Martinelli to come on. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen or not. So it was great to see him come on and get those minutes. That would have meant an awful lot to him. I remember sitting in the sort of media room at London Colney a couple of weeks before the Brazil squad was announced, and we sort of sat down with Gabriel Martinelli and had a chat about the World Cup and his hopes for it and his dreams of being selected. And just listening to him talk, you could see and hear exactly what it meant to him, what it would mean to him to be there. So for him to get the call up and then for him to come on and make his World Cup debut, special moment for Martinelli. He had a couple of good little runs as well, even though he was on the pitch only for a few minutes. Gabriel Jesus couldn't really get in the game. It's a shame, really, because the game was kind of done and dusted by the point he came on. And Gabriel Jesus, I know he's absolutely desperate to score. He had a difficult World Cup last time out. He's desperate to score a World Cup goal. And I think he'll probably want a little bit longer than 20 minutes. But you can't really argue at the moment. Richarlison starting as number 9 for Brazil. His record may not be scoring many goals for Tottenham, but for Brazil recently he's been scoring an absolute shed load. And that goal he scored last night was the second goal was an absolute beauty. So you can't really argue. But still good for them. Good win for Brazil. Always feels like the World Cup's up and running once Brazil play, I think. So good win for them. Granit Xhaka got off to a winning start yesterday, 1-0, not the best of games, but good win nonetheless for Switzerland to open up with a victory 1-0 against Cameroon. Thomas Partey, not so much luck for Thomas Partey. 3-2, they went down to Portugal. Not having that Ronaldo penalty at all. I don't know how he got that, but I think Portugal, you have to say, probably just about deserved the win, even though they had to endure a late little nervy a few minutes when Ghana made it 3-2, and then the goalkeeper nearly produced the clanger of all clangers to hand Ghana an equaliser right at the end, but Naki Williams couldn't quite take it. So big days for Xhaka, Partey, and then the 2 Brazilians, and as we know, Bukayo Saka in action tonight. I think this one's going to be really important. I mean, it's a huge game for England. Obviously, win this game, and they're qualified. Don't even have to really worry about the Wales game, although you obviously want to guarantee you top the group. So, and I think this is going to be the toughest game. I thought USA, from what I saw, were very good in the first half against Wales, then were pretty poor in the second half against Wales. But, they've got a high tempo pressing team. They're young, vibrant, and they'll be very, very up for this one. So I think this is going to be a difficult game for England. It's going to be interesting to watch how they get on. Mykhailo, obviously fantastic in that opening game against Iran. 2 brilliant goals. He'll be full of confidence going into that one. Looks like it's going to be the same starting 11. So again, no Ben White and obviously no Aaron Ramsdale. But still, Bukayo Saka will be starting on that right-hand side. And, hope a chance for him to really build on that fantastic first game that he produced in that win against Iran. And big opportunity for England to really absolutely grasp control of that group, get themselves through, and then can kind of play a little bit in second gear against Wales, if you can do that in a game between England and Wales. Away from the World Cup, Mykhailo Mudryk, manager at Shakhtar Donetsk, has been speaking, Igor Javajevic, and has pretty much urged Modric to sort of brush aside the interest of the likes of Arsenal, Newcastle, United, whoever else is interested in him, which I suggest will be an awful lot of clubs because of his talent and the fact that he's probably going to be available in January, and if not January, then definitely the summer. He's been speaking to the manager. We've heard from lots of people recently about Modric, including Modric himself, but we've heard from the Shakhtar sporting director, we've heard from Modric's agent, and now the manager's speaking, and he's basically saying, look, stay at Shakhtar for a little bit longer. He says, as a coach, of course, I would like to see such a player play as long as possible in my team to build quality Shakhtar around him so that everyone gains momentum, gains experience, and does what perhaps the team once did in the Champions League. With our efforts, talent, ambition, I think we could do it together eventually. They are young. There are several players in likes of Dynamo Zagreb, for example, Guardiola, who now plays for Leipzig, Dani Olmo, who played in Zagreb. Each of them played at least 100 matches for the club and only then moved to an intermediate club, not immediately to Barcelona and City. So he's basically urging Mudryk to follow the leads of Olmo and people like that and stay for a little bit longer at the club where they've really sort of made their name, and then make the move to Europe, the big move to Europe, one of Europe's top clubs. I don't think that's going to work. Personally, I can't see Mudryk, the way that he's been talking, the way that his agent's been talking, he knows he wants to move now. This is the time for him to move. I think, they're both going to be putting quite a lot of pressure on Shakhtar to sell. I'm not saying it's going to be Arsenal by any means. I've already talked about that in previous videos. He's a player clearly they like and he's on the agenda, but he's on the agenda of an awful lot of clubs. And it's going to be a case of who pays the sort of money that Shakhtar are asking. And the money Shakhtar are asking is huge. We know that. They've said it publicly. They're looking at the likes of 100 million for Mudryk. Whether they end up getting that remains to be seen. I think it's probably unlikely, but if they stand firm, if they continue to point at the likes of Anthony and everyone like that and the transfer fees, then we'll have to wait and see just how strong their resolve is, and will they be willing to keep him if they don't get that money. We'll have to wait and see. They did in January, but they were talking a lot less money than what they're going to be talking about now. But very good player, very exciting player, a player that I rate massively myself in my very limited knowledge of European football. But I do like him, and he's got that exciting look about him. So we'll wait and see if anything happens with him in January. Lastly, in this one, Rhys Nelson has been talking about his future. He's talked about this before after that game against, who was it? It was Forest, wasn't it? He scored those 2 goals, and everyone, sort of remembered Reiss Nelson almost because he'd been a bit of a forgotten man. He spoke to us after that game, talked about his contract, and which is up in the summer, and how he'd like to sign a new deal. He wants to stay at Arsenal. He's been talking again about that at an event he's been in London, where he kind of launched his new cage, where he grew up playing cage football, and he's helped launch a new one around there. And so he's talking about his future again, and he's basically reaffirmed his desire to stay at Arsenal. Whether he will, I'm not sure, but this is what he had to say. He said, I feel like someone like Mykhailo is a coach that I need right now in my career in terms of taking me to the next step. My head is not focusing on whether I need to get another team in January or talking to other teams, doing this or doing that. It's literally, how can I perform for the highest of heights when I get the opportunity. I am an Arsenal fan, of course. I want to sign a new contract at the club. I'm just going to be ready for anything I get now and give my all for the team. He's also spoken previously in the last few weeks at this same event about how maybe earlier his professionalism wasn't the greatest, and it does seem like there's a bit of a new Rhys Nelson. Whenever you talk to him, when you listen to Mykhailo Arteta talk about him, they said they've seen a big difference in Rhys Nelson, and we've seen it on the pitch. I mean, look, granted, he scored the 2 goals against Forest. He had a couple of maybe underwhelming performances since then, but I thought he played well in the Brighton game. Really good assist for Eddie Nketiah. He's got something about him, Rhys. We know that. He's got the technical ability. He's got the quality. He can beat a man. He can score goals. It's just about whether he can kind of do that on a consistent basis and whether that's enough for Arsenal to give him a new contract. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think January's, nothing's going to happen in January. So I still think he's got 6 months to really prove his worth at Arsenal and prove that he warrants a new contract. And if he can continue getting his head down, he can continue training the way he does, continue performing when he does get an opportunity on the pitch, then, maybe he will. And maybe he does have a long-term future here, but we'll wait and see. Let me know what you think anyway about Reiss Nelson or anything else you've heard in this video. What are you looking forward to seeing over the next couple of days in the World Cup? What do you think Bukayo Saka's going to do tonight for England against the USA? Let me know anything you've heard, disagreed with, agreed with, any of your football opinions in the comments below. All right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for watching today. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy whatever you're doing tonight and the weekend as well. Have a great day. I'll speak to you soon.